We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for joining. We've got a great turnout. I really appreciate it. This is an important topic, I know. This next hour and 14 minutes, I will make sure that this is a really valuable use of your time. Great. I'm just going to give it one more minute and we'll get started. Awesome. Yeah, so one of the things also to note is that there's probably like a place where you can where you can answer a poll. I have a couple of questions that I would just love for you to answer if you can see that. I think it may be like along the top of the screen, there's a couple of questions that if you get a moment to fill those out, that would be great. And it's just about like what your current situation is with receiving paper bids, you know, whether this is something that you're that you're needing to move forward with, and kind of what your time frame is. All right, so let's, I'm gonna bring up my notes here and get started. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, welcome to our webinar today titled How to Go from Paper to Paperless Bidding in a Day and Never Want to Go Back. This webinar is delivered to you free of charge today by ProcureNow. We are a certified small business based out of California. We were formed with the primary mission of helping governments achieve more with better software built specifically to support public procurement. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to make no qualms about the objective of our webinar today. We are here to talk about the COVID-19 crisis, the health and safety need to switch from paper-based procurements to paperless. If you already have a way to accept bids and RFP responses electronically, you're not going to get much out of today's talk. So congratulations, you're all set. I can give you back the next hour of your time. If your procurement process is paper and in-person based, either internally or externally or both, and you rely on actual bodies showing up to government buildings in one way or another, then all of a sudden you found yourself in the situation that so many of us are finding ourselves. You're working from home, your colleagues are working from home, the businesses that you interact with are working from home. Meanwhile, your government agency is at the epicenter of service delivery to a nation that's in need. This hour is really for you. Hour and 10 minutes. This is me. That's my quarantine, it's shelter in place quarantine look. My name is Thao. I'll be your host for today. I'm the lead sales and marketing person at ProcureNow. I've been working as a technology solutions consultant to local government agencies for over 20 years. What drives my passion for local government is the people that I work with. In my past, I've worked with city managers, clerks, IT directors, purchasing directors, to buyers, webmasters, city attorneys, heads of finance. I've gotten an immense amount of joy seeing them leverage technology to drive success in their personal careers and their communities and transform their roles where they work. I'm truly honored to be able to make a career out of helping so many public servants such as yourself. So a big thank you for all the work that you do in your communities. I see something here that if there are sort of any connection issues, you can just reload the page and it should bring you back in. All right. So also today we have with us a couple of our customers who will be speaking at one point or another. Krystya Owen, who's the purchasing agent for the city of Norfolk, and also Conor Peterson, who is the ProcureNow project lead for the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. Thank you so much to both of you for being available to answer questions and to give us a little bit of your story and your experience. All right, so although today's free offer is about our electronic sourcing module, I did want to quickly give you an overview of our history of our entire suite so that you know what possibilities may be out there in the future once the dust settles a little bit. I think it's really important for folks to understand that, what happens next, and did I make the right choice? And so I would love if you could hear me out for a couple of minutes and I'll tell you a little bit about who we are, how our products came to be. So ProcureNow was founded approximately 4 years ago. As a scrappy GovTech startup, we knew that the first year or two was just going to be finding out about a really big challenge that we could make an enormous impact in solving. We worked with government procurement and administration teams in both the city of Boston and the city of Philadelphia to understand what their biggest headaches were. And this is where we were heading. We were trying to come up with a way so that things would be very easy for folks intuitively to understand. I've got a couple of these sort of quotes that I'll just kind of sprinkle throughout. And so so if this is what you're looking for, you want to make sure that it's easy, that the transition is easy from paper to electronic. You're, like you said, you're in the right place. This is another quote from our friend Conor, who's a testament to how easy it is for suppliers to navigate our portal, and I know that that's something that's going to be really, really important for you too. So when our work with Boston and Philadelphia led us to focusing on building an RFP writing tool, like you see here in the pie, the part that's open that says collaboration. This moved folks away from passing around word processor templates and documents filled with highlighted text and underlines and comments, along with emails as their primary way of collaborating on these really important projects. These folks were calling us the TurboTax for RFPs and bids. Because we were so focused on collecting all of the different information that went into solicitation, it really worked well, and we learned a lot through that experience. One of the biggest things that we recognized was that they were asking for all this important project information. If you think about it, the title, the summary, the background, the individual deadline dates, the evaluation criteria, the pricing tables, all the bidding instructions, the vendor responses, the terms and conditions, the potential contract language, and we were extracting it all out of our database and then flattening it again into this one single word processor document that was like 100 pages and turning it into a PDF. And then we were turning around and re-extracting that to put it back into like an electronic bidding system, copying and pasting the title, copying and pasting the summary, re-entering the deadline dates, uploading all the attachments, and in some cases recreating like an online bid response table, recreating the guidance for all the forms that they needed to fill out. And then for the vendors, they're asked to like re-extract the forms that were inside the PDF, fill them out, re-upload them. For vendors, it was like also figuring out exactly how the response was supposed to be formatted, hoping that they didn't miss anything. And so for us, then the light went off. Like all this stuff we were collecting up front to write about the RFP could be used to prevent duplicate entry for both procurement staff and bidders. So we could use this information like the deadline dates, the vendor response format, the evaluation criteria to form an automated setup of that piece of the process, notifications, Q&A, response deadline adherence, vendor guidance on making the process of responding intuitive, and setting up the scoring sheets for the evaluation criteria. So it really became obvious that vendor engagement and sourcing was the next logical step that you see here. Then after that, our customers wanted to turn the scope of work, the winning vendor responses, and the sample contracts to help them form the contract language using the same intelligence building technology that we built for writing RFPs and bids, and manage important information and deadlines regarding to the contract itself. So this is how ProcureNow came to be. And I only cover this because it's important to note that we didn't look at like any sort of existing e-bidding methodologies to build ProcureNow as you see it today. We started off by identifying the biggest challenge facing procurement, and that was writing the solicitation, writing the contract. And then we built something to solve that challenge, and then all the other systems that could be turbocharged by connecting to that solution. That's why when you look at ProcureNow, it looks different from the other systems that have been out there for such a long time. We weren't just defined by the way things used to be done. Our goal was to break free from all that, and with the help of our customers, define this sort of new era of procurement workflow automations built specifically for government. So from here on out, we're going to focus on this piece of the platform that has just been thrust into the spotlight. But I wanted to briefly explain the rest so that you could be excited about the possibilities of what it can do to help you manage the entire process and collaboration with both staff and vendors. So before we move forward, it's important, I think, that we get our priorities straight. To keep you, your staff, your colleagues, and your vendor partners safe, healthy, and out of harm's way. I think we can all agree that if we keep this as our driving force during this crisis, our decisions will be the right ones. Another objective and priority that we should really keep in mind as we make these decisions to move into the paperless world is to make decisions that don't create more problems. We can make this move easily, effortlessly, and joyfully without wreaking havoc on any part of the process. So, how do you prepare for for this? How do you prepare for bidding during the COVID-19 crisis and beyond? And again, like again, I'm speaking to the folks who don't have a way to do this electronically currently. So in talking with with our customers and some of the experiences that we've had so far, here's some of the things that came up. Number one, like review the policies, of course. Ask for emergency consideration if needed. Now, interestingly enough, because we're talking about solicitations and bidding, we're not necessarily talking about moving the agency to electronic contract signatures. Now, some folks are doing that, like with Norfolk, that with Krystya, who'll be speaking with us later, like that's also something else that they're moving toward. But when it comes to taking paperless bids, we're not asking to move to like electronic contract signatures, and I think that was one thing that like I've heard over and over that folks have said to me that like when that light off went off for folks, they realized that there wasn't a lot of hurdles that they actually had to jump through in order to move from paper to paperless in their solicitation process. So just keep that in mind. And if anything needs to be discussed around that, we can talk about that a little further. The other thing is review your existing open bids and the approaching deadlines. Which ones are the ones that need to be kind of prioritized as far as like the projects that you're working on, the commodities and goods that you're receiving. Obviously, right now, like some commodities and goods are going to be more important than others. So definitely take the time. And I've had this conversation with a number of customers and customers that are coming on board. Like, hey, like I've got these set of projects that are super important. I need to get those out now. And so, that's important that we sort of just like reprioritize things a little bit. Issue addenda to go along with the prioritization of those projects. That's something that we're seeing happen a lot, is that, just kind of taking a look at everything that's out there and making a decision about which ones that we need to go ahead and maybe, move out a couple of weeks or based off of our priorities. Again, keeping your vendors out of harm's way. And so the other thing that I'm just mentioning, how in preparation is connect with your upcoming evaluators about moving to paperless. Again, like they're also working from home. And so, what we don't want to do is we don't want to create a situation where we're like emailing in a bunch of like 100-page PDFs and then all of a sudden, having to send that over to them in a way that is going to be really difficult for them to evaluate. And so that's part of the reason why the solution that we're talking about today includes electronic evaluation automation, because I think that you can't really break those two up without wreaking havoc on one part of the process or another. And then, finally, we're going to go into this a little deeper. Find a solution that keeps your process compliant while at the same time being headache-free. So here's some of the things that, as far as like a compliance checklist, I'll also make these slides available to everyone after the webinar. I'll be happy to email this out to everyone. First of all, we'll want to, actually, before I move forward, just because I haven't heard from anyone out there in a little bit, if you could maybe just type in something in the chat to make sure that you're still there, that I'm still there. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, everybody's there. Okay, so that's great. So the first thing to think about as far as like compliance wise is, we need to follow a sealed bid compliant process, right? So this is why emails just don't, like emailing a PDF isn't good enough, right? So we need to find a solution that is going to mimic the process that you have of someone delivering a bid where it has their name, the company name, the timestamp that it was delivered, and that's it. Like you can see that, but you can't see the other stuff. Also, if you want to be able to, let's say for instance, like keep back the pricing schedules that they send out, but move forward or unseal the rest of it. Then you want to be able to make sure that like your system can support something like that, where there's like a first release of all the proposal information, and then there's kind of like a second release with the cost proposal. And then second, the thing as far as compliance is Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and accessibility, making sure that like what you're putting out there is going to be machine readable. Like taking image scans of PDF, we all know that that's not cool from an ADA perspective because the machines can't read that. And so, just making sure that like the documentation that we put up there is readable, by accessibility enhancements on PCs or laptops. The third thing is making sure that the proper alerts are in place, from the public notice when the bid goes out to when you post addendas and questions and answers. And just so you know, as far as our solution is concerned, it does all of these things. So, but if you're just from a checklist perspective of making sure that you're accommodating those, making sure that you get those notifications out. Another one that's come up a lot that I've heard folks talk about is posting without restrictions. When you move from just posting things to your website where folks can just go and download the PDF, into a system like this, where you're actually having them respond electronically, what we're introducing is a registration process. And so we want to keep those barriers of entry really low. We want to give them access to all the information about the bid without them having to log in. But in order to get to the rest of the information, we also want that to not be hard. So name, email, company name, that's it. If a system is out there and is making you like, type in like the 5 addresses or fax numbers and my EIN, and in order to just access the bid, NIGP categories or NASICs or whatever, like if it's making them do that, then like that barrier of entry all of a sudden has gotten from just click and download to really, really high. And so we've taken great care to make sure that name, email, company name, that's it. Deadline adherence. What I mean by that is that when the Q&A period closes, they can't ask questions on the site. That when the deadline approaches, that they get notified about the deadline being approaching, and that when the deadline is here, that they actually can't submit the response at all. So it's not like they can submit it and then think that they actually got through. The system will actually stop them and prevent them from submitting it. So that's what I mean by deadline adherence. Streamline bidding to an invite-only group. So, during this time particularly, they're going to want to take advantage of your policies that allow you to, do certain types of procurements that are under thresholds with informal bidding or invitation-only bidding, for small construction projects, et cetera. And so we do have a way that you can type in a comma delimited email list, and the bid only goes out to those folks. At the same time, when you get those back, and you want to post the results, you can still have, it's the next part, transparent electronic bid openings, where you can digitally unseal the bid, and then post the totals, or even post the entire bid out on the web for everyone to see. And then the last part is just that to make sure that when it comes to public records requests and records retention, that you're compliance there, that you're in compliance there. And for as it relates to ProcureNow, everything that's related to a project is available on a project page, and it takes you from beginning to end, from solicitation to the vendors who are responding, to the analytics about which vendors are looking at your solicitation, et cetera, all the way through to the evaluation stage, what the evaluation criteria, how the evaluation turned out. And you'll be able to get to all that in one place. All the communication that's occurred officially would also be there with the Q&A and addenda, et cetera. So you're not having to fish for all that in all these other places, which is important that we, that you encourage the vendors to actually do their official communication through this channel, so that you're not having to dig through emails if someone asks for a public records request. So there's that. All right. And again, I will just say this, that if there are issues with folks like accessing the technology, I apologize for that. It looks like that it's mostly working for folks. We may have one or two people that are having some issues with their PCs. This recording, God willing, that everything goes well, that will be available, and then I'll make sure that it gets out to everyone. All right, so consider other considerations for the transition. We talked a little bit about the evaluator experience, but that's something that I'll show you some examples of that I think will be interesting for you to see how, like, slightly changing how you ask your vendor's response can actually improve the evaluation experience quite drastically. We talked about public records requests. This third one's important. Know where your cloud is. The answer to our question about where's your data is we use Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. And so those are two of the most well-known government compliant solutions, cloud solutions that are available on the web today. So you can rest assured that I'm not just storing your data in like a server in my closet in my house, but just ask the question, where's this stuff located, and make sure that the answer to that question is a world-class cloud such as Amazon or Microsoft. Support your vendors in the transition. So, and what I mean by that is just like think about what they're used to seeing on your website and how this is going to affect that transition. And the reason why I bring this up is because in our tool we actually have a place where a vendor can click and open up a chat and start talking with us. And so we're actually right there with them. I actually was on a phone call yesterday with a lady in Tallahassee, Florida. And this was the first time she'd ever subscribed to a service like this. And so the fact that she was able to ask a question, and we knew that someone needed help, and we were able to reach out to her and talk with her live right then and there. She was super appreciative about it. Said that we made her feel like that. Even though she wasn't tech savvy, she understood what she needed to do at this point. So that's just super important when you're making this transition, that we have that ability to get to those folks right when they're having the trouble, and help them feel more comfortable. And so that's built into what we're doing here. And then finally, take advantage in these considerations, take advantage of social media to get the word out. We have very easy links so that your vendors can click on their Twitter feed, they can click on their LinkedIn feed, and they can help you get the word out. If I'm not the person who is offering these services, I certainly know someone who sells these products that would definitely not be in your database, and they'll just never even know about it unless I was the one that helped them bring them in. And so that's such a key part of getting more people, more eyes on your project. And then of course, the biggest consideration is it easy to use? I'll say this, that if your system needs a big voluminous help guide, then the answer to that question is probably no. If they have to click on some vendor guide that takes them through even 2 pages of stuff that they need to understand, we want them to just be able to open up the application and have the application be intuitive enough so that they don't feel overwhelmed, or they don't feel like they don't know where they are. And so that's something that we just pay really, really close attention to. Now, I'm going to ask that Christina, that if you could unmute yourself here and come on board here Can you speak to me, Krystya?
Hi, everyone.
All right. Can everyone hear Krystya? Awesome. Krystya, so Krystya is the purchasing agent for the city of Norfolk, Virginia. The reason why I asked her to join us is because she has a very, very interesting and timely story about this exact thing. Actually, Krystya, I'm just going to leave it at that. Maybe if you could just spend a few minutes and let the audience know like what you guys just recently went through.
Hi. I'm hoping everybody is going. I'm sorry. Give me just a second. I need to
Yeah, you may need to
myself here.
mute the laptop.
All right. Hopefully now it's a little better.
Yes.
I'm hoping everybody is staying safe. We are definitely living in some interesting times. We just implemented ProcureNow in all this mess. We were lucky enough that this found us at the very end of an RSP process where ProcureNow was the selected vendor. So we were able to speed the implementation process up. We were double lucky that Thao was on site with us a couple of weeks ago, attending our vendor fair and helping them sign up, which made it possible when the city announced that the facilities are going to be closed to the public, to literally sit down with him at the table and quickly figure out a solution to how do we receive the bids electronically right now, starting next week. So we were able to move forward with a very truncated solution that basically allows us to submit the proposals and the bids in the format that we would otherwise have them submitted, just in a PDF, not in a hard copy. For bids, we are for the bids that are currently out. We have about a dozen of them, and we have decided to both allow electronic and paper submissions, just because we already had some paper submissions here. So we were flexible on that. But once those open, we are not going to allow any more paper submissions. If you're interested in how we went through that process, what addenda we issued to allow that, some of them are still on the public website. If you reach out to me directly, I'll be happy to send you those documents. Al and his team were more than helpful. They jumped right on it. Of course, it happened on a Friday, so we had a hotline going on over the weekend, and as we were trying to figure things out and implemented the basic solution. And right now, it's everything seems to be working. We had one bid opening earlier this week where we had both electronic submissions and paper submissions. So that went well. We have another one tomorrow, and then a bunch of them next week, because we moved some of them out to be able to come up with a solution.
Awesome. Thank you, Krystya. I will take a moment. There's a couple of questions that are coming in, Krystya. So I'm just gonna read those real quickly, but also I'm gonna show everybody real quick kind of how things are implemented on your site, so people can just kind of see what you were talking about. So this is what you're seeing on the screen here is Krystya's purchasing portal that they already had in place. And so for these projects that are here, what has happened is, they have, for, let's say, for instance, this one, which was one that's been out there for a little while. If you scroll down, you'll see all they did was they just updated the submittal information with the link to the project, which I'll show you guys how to generate that in our system. And then additionally, they have issued addenda, which this is what Krystya was talking about, that you could actually access just by going to their site. The easiest way that I get there is usually I just type in like the city of Norfolk bids, and it will take me to their main purchasing page. And then from there, they have a way that you can, so if you go to their main purchasing page, from there they have a way that you can get to their bid postings. So this is their main purchasing site. And so they just click on awards and solicitations, and they have them listed here. And so that is one really good way to just, as folks, for existing bids, as Krystya mentioned, they're able to just come in and do it that way. I noticed that, so this was one that actually went live yesterday, I think. And so you'll notice here that it's that they're just dropping the link right into the project. So that they'll be able to just take that and then post it. So for the vendor, all they'll have to do is just click on the link, and it will take them to the ProcureNow version of it, where they can read the introduction, as you see here, who the contact person is. I can read through, here it just says, like, see the full proposal documentation. Here you'll see that there's some questions that they have. So this is where they would upload their response. And then they, the way that Norfolk wanted to do it is they wanted to just do like a checklist for them to see, to make sure that they've included all of these things in their response, which is really smart and super helpful for the vendor. They make sure that you do this, make sure you do that. And then for this one particularly, they went ahead and used our electronic bidding table, which allows the vendor to just type in what their unit cost is, and it will total everything up for you. So this is and we'll come back to this experience. I'm actually going to go through a demonstration of how to set this up in our system, but I just wanted to show you, where you could go today to see how the city of Norfolk made that transition on their site. And then the question was, Krystya, what is your contact information for the RFP document? So I think I was able to answer that question for the person that asked. Awesome.
Now, if I could add one more thing.
Of course.
So just so that you know, we started on this process on March 13th, and we are already live. Yeah. And we have not significantly changed our current templates. We are using the same templates, the same Word to PDF templates. The only change we've made for the solicitations that we are issuing in ProcureNow from the very beginning right now is change the paragraphs that talk about bid submission, what is going to be allowed, what is not. But it was maybe a couple of hours of work. It did not require any significant time commitment to get it running and to change the templates.
I appreciate that perspective, Krystya. Thank you. What part of what Krystya is talking about too is that there's a second phase of our implementation for Norfolk that we will be working on a little bit later, which does integrate all of their RFP and bid templates using our solicitation writing modules. But as Krystya mentioned, that wasn't the priority today. The priority today was, as we mentioned, if we think about the priority of keeping our staff, our vendors, safe, healthy, and out of harm's way, this was the one really big thing that they could do to make sure that happened while continuing the services that they needed, the important critical services that the purchasing group needed to offer to the community. And Krystya, your team is how many total folks are on the team that are using the system in that over that of coming on board in that week time?
We have a team of 11.
Okay. Yes. So that just lets you know. And part of the reason why I was saying that is it's important that the solution be intuitive, but also, as Christina mentioned, that we're able to be kind of right there with you, and to be able to answer questions that come up, etc. Christina, thank you so much for relaying that experience. If you can just stay on the line. If you have other things to do, I certainly understand. If you can stay on the line, I appreciate it. There may be some additional questions that come up at the end. If you can stay on, I appreciate it very much.
I'll hang around just in case for questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. So that was the city of Norfolk, and the reason why I just thought that was really obviously really relevant. They just went through it, it was actually when we came out of that experience and then saw all this happening, we thought to ourselves, how can we? Christine, I'm going to mute you so that maybe you can turn or whatever. I just want to make sure that you're all good there. All right. Okay, so the next person that we have with us is Conor Peterson with the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. By the way, I forgot to mention everyone. Greetings from Sacramento. That's where I'm also located, and so we are bound. We are homebound, and so is Conor. Conor, I appreciate you coming on, and if you could just tell us a little bit about your experience from going from paper to paperless. How long did that take? What was the experience for your staff? Any sort of thoughts or feedback that you can give to the folks that are on today to help them in this process? I'd appreciate it.
Of course. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right, great. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Thao. Glad you jumped over from the Bay Area over to Sacramento. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. Yeah, I work for a council of governments that represents 6 counties, 22 cities, based around the Sacramento region. I work with a variety of different internal software, but then also kind of on the procurement front. So this was where we really noticed that ProcureNow was kind of leading or bleeding edge of technology on that procurement front. And so we actually found them at a conference, Transforming Local Governments Alliance for Innovation. Highly recommend it if you're looking at kind of innovative software, local government practices. It's a great conference to attend. But we first worked with ProcureNow. I think we're a pretty long-term customer, about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah, that's long-term.
Which in the startup world, yeah. I guess I forgot to turn on my camera.
There you go. Yeah, thanks.
I guess in the startup world, we're a quote-unquote a long-term customer. But we have a few different components that we're working with ProcureNow on. The proposal builder, which I believe Thao went over a little bit. Source value, we're looking into the contracting front. I will say they move fast, so they're very responsive to a lot of the needs on the procurement side, which we've been very appreciative of. There's always a consistent dialogue on some of the things we need and kind of building from there. So that was a while ago when and even though I guess 1.5 years doesn't seem that long ago, but we onboarded a few different softwares in the meantime. But at that point, we were taking all paper submissions for all of our proposals. So we worked with our procurement staff, our legal staff, our leadership, and really had a quick turnaround in transitioning that to all electronic with the onboarding. And so we did have that proposal builder function, which I would say probably took a majority of the time. The actual form of sourcing and eval, that probably only took very little time. I would say more on the proposal builder side, just because we had to upload all of our RFP, RFQ templates. but still in that, it probably took about 2 weeks, maybe less. And I'd say that was probably earlier on. I'm sure they, you know, they've done this many more times in the meantime. But at that point, we still were taking paper, but then after we went through kind of our first RFP, we then transitioned to all electronic, I'd say, after the first time around, just to try it out. And ever since then, we've had no issues, and it's, you know, it's been a seamless process. I guess some of the things I really want to highlight, I guess, in working with ProcureNow, really it's been intuitive. Our training process has been really seamless. Usually would sit down for a few minutes, and this is for the actual RFP builder. For the eval side, we actually bring on external staff all the time, which we thought, you know, maybe that could pose a challenge, but it's actually, we've had really very little questions every time whenever they're going in and basically pulling up the proposals within the site, as well as performing the complete evaluation. And I guess on the admin side of adding users and navigating and customizing a lot of the proposals and your kind of the upload feature has been really easy, and we've appreciated that. Unlimited users, internal and external. I know that some platforms, they kind of charge based on users, but that's never been a problem. The easy sign up process for vendors, we really appreciated that. We came from some different e-procurement platforms where that was kind of a struggle at times and was almost a wall. And then just adding users and evaluators has been easy to navigate, and so we've been really happy with it up to this point. And actually, we're having was brought up as a regional possible concern in Sacramento about kind of taking electronic bids. So we're having a conversation around that next week with some of our public works procurement staff. And we're happy to hear that ProcureNow is offering this functionality to a lot of local governments around the country, just because it is, in the case of taking paper submissions, can be a challenge, obviously, during the current circumstances. But yeah, I mean, I guess that gives a general overview.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Conor. There was a question that came in around, will the software include federal required disadvantaged business enterprise bidding information dealing with subcontractors included in the bid? And so my answer to that question is that absolutely it's compliant with that. That you can, so I'll show you how you can create questions for vendors to elicit certain responses from them on a project by project basis. So if you need to pull that information or glean that information from your vendors, we can show you how to set that up. Sacramento's Council of Governments has these options that they can choose, to denote whether things are federally funded versus not, and then in that case, like if it does, then it drops in all these sort of like DBE information and clauses that would not have normally been in there before. So that's something that is absolutely possible with our system. And from the free perspective, we will give you the ability to create those questions for each project. For our sort of enterprise version, that includes like the solicitation writer. Some of that stuff it becomes really automated. But in either case, you're compliant, and we can show you how to make sure that your vendor responses are compliant as well. Awesome. Conor, thank you so much for joining us. If you don't mind kind of sticking around in case some other questions come up, I really appreciate it. Some folks have been asking to see the tool. So I'm going to kind of switch over and kind of go into that mode now of the talking about the tool and talking about the offer itself. So let me just get back to where I was here on my slide deck. Give me just a moment. Let me find that here. Here we are. All right. Okay, so again, thanks to Krystina and Conor for coming on and relaying your experience. I think that's super important, and we'll make sure that folks have the ability to reach out to you and do that. And if they have questions about that as well, we'll pass those along. I'm going to take a couple of minutes. I do want to spend some time talking about the offer and how it's, what the terms are and all that kind of stuff, and what what if any catches there are to it. But I will now sort of switch over and show you what the process will be like for you. So I'm going to, and so this is what I'm actually showing you. We just implemented this system for the city of Edgewater, Florida. And so this is a brand new implementation. They actually haven't gone live with it yet, but I wanted to show you exactly what you would be getting. And so this is it. So we deploy this site for you. And when we do that, we'll send you, it pops out an automated email that sends you that asks you to activate your account. Once you activate your account with your name, your title, I think that's it, just your name and title, maybe your phone number, it will bring you into, add you as an administrative user into your software. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start a new project. And so you come in here, you start a new project. You see, these are the two options that you have the capability of doing with our sourcing module. I can either draft the solicitation or I can evaluate the proposal. So I'm going to go ahead and draft the solicitation. So what it does is, so the way that our sort of sourcing only module works is that it's going to ask a question. And that question is around how you want to use electronic pricing tables. And so let's just read the question. Which option is the most relevant for this project? Number one, I'm going to use ProcureNow electronic pricing tables as the only pricing response. Number two, my pricing table is pretty complex. I'm going to attach a spreadsheet for them to fill out and then to download and upload. Or option three, the cost proposals will be formatted at the bidder's discretion as part of their response, typical of what you would do in an RFP. And so the reason why we ask this question, so if I were to choose, if I were to originally choose that I'm going to attach a spreadsheet to have them download that and then upload it, I'm just going to click that and choose next. So what that's going to do, if I pop over here to what questions it's going to ask the vendor, you'll notice that it's going to ask the vendor a couple of questions. Number one, I confirm that I've read the Q&A. If there are any on the question and answer tab, click confirm. Number two, I want you to write out the addenda numbers that you received from us. If there were 3 addenda, I'm going to need you to type 1, 2, 3. They have to answer this question. Number 3, please upload your complete response, and it says minus your cost proposal as one PDF file here. So it's guiding them. It's saying, hey, upload your response here, but leave out your cost proposal. And then finally, number 4, please upload your cost proposal here. And so those questions came up because that's what we said up front. My pricing table is complex. I'm going to attach a spreadsheet for them to fill out and upload. Now, if I wanted to change that to have it, say if this is just like an RFP, my cost proposal is going to be formatted at bidder's discretion. I'll choose that. Now, if I come over here to my questionnaire, it looks a little bit different, right? So there's only one response area. It says, please upload your complete response as one PDF file here. So it actually changes the vendor experience based off of how you answer that question. And then finally, if I were to go to the first option, which is to use the ProcureNow electronic pricing table, what's going to happen? Is you see now that there's a new tab that pops up here. And so if I go to my questions, it's going to again say, please update your complete response minus your cost proposal as one PDF file here. And now I have this other area here where I can create a pricing table. So I could come in here and I can say that, I need boots and type in boots. And I'll go over here to my options. I want to specify quantities. I also want to specify the sort of manufacturing part number. So my unit of measure is going to be each. My item ID is going to be Nike 123, and my quantity is going to be 10. I could have thought up of a different, more exciting boot company than Nike, but anyway, so that's all I'd have to do. So if I want to add another pricing item, I can do that here. Let's say that now I want to add socks. and socks are going to be each. These are I want socks from Reebok, 4, 5, 6, and the quantity is 10. So, just to kind of give you an example of how that works. Now, you can for sure like copy and paste these in from a like a spreadsheet that you have, and we'll provide instructions on how to do that. But that's how you would to essentially just fill out a way for your bidders to be able to respond to this electronically. So I'm going to save that. You see what it's doing here is it's letting you know like which sections have been filled out and which ones you still need to pay attention to. So I'm going to come back over here to my intro. I haven't even put an intro in yet, so we'll just say boots and socks. And you can put in who the contact person is going to be, either both the project contact or the procurement contact or both. So I can go ahead and just say that Pat Justin is going to be my procurement contact. And then I can come down here and type a summary. So if I've never done this before, I can just click this little button here, and it's going to tell me like what to do. Summary should be 1 to 3 paragraphs. What problem are you solving? Here's some examples of other summaries, so that you can get an idea about how to type a summary. Thank you for the questions that are coming in. I'm gonna get to those questions when I finish this sort of brief demonstration. So keep on typing. I appreciate the fact that you guys are curious. I'm gonna say seeking vendors who have boots and socks. And then same thing for background. If I want to know what a background is and I want to see some examples of backgrounds, I can just type that in, because we need covers for our feet. All right. So I can come in here, and if we need to have a pre-proposal meeting, I can do that. Let's say I don't know when the selection date is going to be. I can turn that off. I can create custom dates and deadlines, etc. Let's just do this. My question submission deadline. So I'll come in here. We want to release the project, and then so let's release the project today. Let's set the pre-proposal meeting for tomorrow. And we're going to have that meeting in council. Well, that's fine. Public Works Conference Room. Let's require attendance for that. And the question submission deadline is going to be, let's make that on Monday. Let's see. Submission deadline is 23rd. There you go. Submission deadline. There we go. Let's make that the 30th, and then there we go. Okay. So we've got let's make sure we got everything lined up here. And so we're going to release it. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry about that. Let me back this up a little bit. Let's release it on the 3rd. Our question submission deadline, let's make that on the 6th. The pre-proposal meeting, let's make that on the 10th. And then the proposals, let's make that the 31st. There we go. All right. So all right. So now the next part is going to be, I have some attachments. Like I have a bunch of attachments, right? So the process is the same for writing your RFP, writing your bid, having your documents and everything that are going to be a part of this submission. None of that changes with the sourcing module that we have. So I'll just come in here, and now it's asking me to upload all my attachments. So this is the part where you would go in and you would say, okay, like I've got, let's say that I've got my, go here, and I need, I'm going to upload this PDF, which is sort of like my RFP here. So let me upload that. I've got, let's say if I have like another sort of attachment that I want to attach to that, I can make that Appendix D. I can come in here, and if there's a spreadsheet that I wanted to do that, this is the place to do that. I'll go ahead and upload that. And so this is where you just upload all your documents. There's no limit on file sizes or anything like that. You're just going to want to upload documents that are going to be easily readable by your end user. So now I've got my attachments complete here. So so this is a boilerplate, so we can actually put any sort of specific instructions. And the reason why I kind of left this general in the template is because these instructions for electronic response are going to be, could be different from site to site, right? Like you're going to want to explain to them, like, go to this page on your website, browse to the purchasing site, and download your bids from there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can define that language, and that language would show up every time. So yeah, so now that I've collected that information, so I look across here, everything looks great. I'll go ahead and review the project. So we'll just submit for review. So we do have the capability, if I wanted to invite someone to review and approve the project before I send it out, you have a way to do that as well. So I will go ahead and let's just read through that real quick. Here's my project document. There's my introduction. There's the contact information. Here's my instructions. Here's the vendor questionnaire. Here is the pricing proposal. And these are the attachments. So I see some information. I see some questions that are coming in about like attachments, and do you have a way to, there's one question specifically around tracking certificates of insurance within the system. The answer to that question is yes. If you're a vendor, there is a place where that they can upload their certificates of insurance. So that's one way that you can do it. Another way that you can do it, actually, let me go back in here and edit this. And I can just go over here to my questionnaire, and I can ask for anything that I want. So if I wanted them to, let's do another file upload, and let's call this bid bond. Upload here, require that they do it, add question. Okay, let's add another one. And this is going to be your certificates of insurance. Upload here, require response, add question. So you can add as many of these as you want. You can, if there's like if there's a requirement. So let's say you must be a business with a license in the city of Roseville. Do you have that? Require response. So what you're seeing here is so that there's a boilerplate, but there's also the ability for you to customize that on a project by project basis. And we can go back in, and we can, if this is something that you want to ask every time, I'll show you how you can do that, so that your boilerplate is sort of this baseline. To that effect, let me just quickly show you that in each one of our customers' cases, here's the city of Milpitas. This is what their vendor questionnaire looks like, for this one particular project that they have. They're asking for addenda, they're asking for the acknowledgement on a question, they have all of their forms that need to be filled out, and then they're doing, like, they say, hey, if you do a brand substitution, listed here. So here is the city of Santa Monica. They actually have their vendor response, their cost proposal, and they have them sign their addenda, and that's fine as well. Here's one in the city of Norfolk that we just talked about before, where they have them confirm certain things in the Sacramento Area Council of Government. So the only reason why I show this is so that you can see that, like, you can get pretty, like, they get pretty intense when it comes to, like, I want my transmittal letter, I want the project proposal, I want the vendor qualifications, I want the vendor contract, the subcontractor information. Someone asked about that before. Include your affirmative action program. You can get, you can ask for whatever that you need from them, and the system will manage that for you. There is all of the standard notifications that you would need to be compliant, we talked about that earlier, are included in this as well. So if someone follows along with the project, if a vendor follows along with the project, then they're going to receive those email notifications of when things, when the QA period is expiring, when the deadline is approaching, when you're about to have your pre-bid conference, etc. That's all included. So let me just quickly go back and wrap this up here. So so now that if I back over here to my review, Let me save this. I'll go back over to my review here, and there we go. So now I just, as a reviewer, as someone who has approved it, let's go. Looks good, approve. And now I can move to the next step, which is essentially to post the bid. So now it's telling me, hey, like it's time to post the bid. Everything's ready to go. So let me come over here and get started. It's just going to have me confirm the questions that we want to ask. And it's also going to have me look at this timeline and say, hey, is the timeline still good? Is it going to change? Is it, anything like this needs to be adjusted? So let's go ahead and we'll go live with this, even though, so this is actually kind of important because this would have been like a bid that had already been released. So you can kind of see what that experience is like. So if this was already out on your website, you can still post the right dates. And then I'm just going to confirm this. It's not due until the 31st, right? So it's still going to be open. So here's my options. I can make it a private bid, which means I don't post it to my site. So that would be if you want to formally send private invitations to folks who are bidding on this. We've had a lot of folks that have asked for that. Publicly list the vendor followers. So this is the equivalent to a plan holders list. Every time that someone follows the project or downloads the document, they get added to this followers list. And that list is available to the public if you want it to be. And again, if you have any questions about what it does, publicly displays all the vendors that are following updates to the project. Use seal bid process. It's going to mostly be turned on. There's a question here about digital lockbox. This is the feature right here. If you use the seal bid process, then only the staff will be able to see the name of the vendor and their contact information and when they submitted it, and that's it. They will not have access to the proposal until after the deadline has passed. And so we have a couple of seal bid options here. I can turn this on to automatically unseal the bid at the deadline date. So at 2 o'clock on Friday when the bid is due, I can actually do an automatic unseal if I want. If I don't, I can turn that off, and it's just going to have a little button where you do the unseal. And then also there's this other thing called publish bid results. So if you use our pricing table to have the vendors fill out their pricing, you can actually, when it unseals, you can either have it show their entire pricing table for all their vendors lined up for everyone to see when you unseal the bid, or you can just have it show the total, like the bottom line total of what each of the bidders bid on. So all you have to do is set that. And then whenever you do unseal the bid, then there's a tab on the portal called results, and the results will show up on that tab. So I'm all set, I'm ready to go, and I'll just schedule my post. We'll go ahead and post it now, and that's it. So now it's because we have linked this to your website, this is now available on that website. So I'm going to come over here now. Let me go to the city of Edgewater here. And now I have a bid for boots and socks there. And so now I'm just going to take a moment to click on this here. I'm a vendor. This is the first time I've seen it. I may have gotten an email from someone, or I signed up to receive notifications, which our system does as a full vendor registration process. I'll show it to you right now. It's really easy. So I'm looking at this. This is boots and socks. I see the information about it. I see the instructions. I read how I'm going to have to respond, and then I see like how I'm going to be proposing. It says here to respond to the project, please click the submit response button above. So if I'm ready to submit my response, let me just go ahead and do that. It's going to ask me to sign in or sign up. And this is the first time as a vendor that I'd be doing this. So let's go ahead and sign up. And I'm just going to type in my email address here. They have to give an email. And once they do that, then what it's going to do, it's going to send over an email to my account. So let me just find that real quick for you. All right, welcome to ProcureNow. Here we go. So let me just, this is the activation. Type in a password. activate account. Okay, so now it brings me back here to the bid that I was working on, and I'll just go ahead and well, I'll notice here that I've got a couple of things going on here. Actually, so let me do this because I was working on another project. It got a little confused. That normally won't have that problem. So let me just go back to my portal here for Edgewater. All right. So I click on boots and socks, and I'm going to submit my response. It's going to ask me if I want to update my profile information because it's the first time I've done it. I can do it now. I can do it later. No big deal. This is what I was talking about, keeping those barriers of entry low. We just want it. You just want name, company name. That's it. We can fill in the other stuff later. So I'm going to say later. It's going to ask me if I want to subscribe. I'll say okay. And so now you see what I've done is it's brought up a new tab for the vendor. It's asking me for 5 things. Contact information. Let's go ahead and fill that out. And all the things that I need to. There we go. So now I'm going to come in. Please confirm. Yes. Which addenda? I'll just say that there was one. Please upload your response. So let me come in and upload my response. All right. Am I a business? Yes. Upload my bid bond. So if that's something that we needed to attach, we could just drop that in. And if I needed to attach my certificate of insurance, I could just drop that in. So once I do that, then we can say continue. So let's say that I get to the pricing table and I'm confused and I don't know what to do. So let me just click here. And let's see, let us know if you have any questions. Okay, sounds good. Let's just start a new conversation here. So, hey, how do I fill this out? All right. And so what it's going to do here is it's going to let you know that someone's going to be responding to them. And so what actually happened is I'm on my iPhone right now, and I received the notification. Our entire team receives that notification, and we can actually help them in real time. So you don't have to worry about like if vendors get confused or anything like that. Our team is there to make sure that that everything off splendidly. All right. I'll go ahead and fill in my costs for boots and socks. And let's just continue that. Now it's going to say, hey, in order for you to submit that bid, I've got to complete my profile. So let's come in here and let's do that. And let's complete my profile here. So in California, let me get my address. And looks like as far as I need to do this here. So I'm going to have to fill this out. Let's go ahead and hit save. Oh, I need a state. All right. So just the required information. Now, this is the only time that they'll have to fill that out. The next time where they respond to another bid, they won't have to do that anymore. And so now I've got everything here. I've got all my green check marks. Everything's ready to go. I'll click here and submit my proposal. And so I'm done. And so now let's go back in to, I'm going to log out as my vendor. And I'm going to log back in as my internal account. Take a look at what we've got so far. So all my projects will be listed here. I click on this open project here, and I can actually, let me just do something real quick here. Let me set this so that it goes across the whole screen. Use the full width. There we go. All right. So let me click on that. So now, how are things going? I'll just click on vendor analytics. Of course, it's just me. So 2 people have looked at it so far. 1 person has followed it, 1 person is applied, and 1 person has submitted. And if I had filled out my my DBE classification, I would have seen that there. And then all the folks that are following, I would see an email log of emails that have been sent out to everyone so far. So you get this like great view of like real time of like how people are responding to it. If we have some time, I can show you a couple other examples. We're getting pretty close. So the other thing, just real quickly, so if I wanted to see the submitted proposals, I click here. Notice I've got submitted by ProcureNow. There's the information. There's submission date. I cannot. Proposals will be viewable once bid is unsealed. So I can't. This is all I see. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and let's go to this here. Go to my project. And so at this point, if I wanted to close it, I would have to close it by changing the date here and stuff. So I won't do that. So I'm going to stop here just because like that is, we have about 5 minutes left. But I was able to essentially take you through both how you set it up, what it will look like for a vendor, and the process for the vendor to respond. There's so many other pieces of this, and so I wanted to kind of quickly just show you very briefly. I'm going to log into my demo system here so you can kind of see what the evaluation process is like. So let me just click on that real quick, go to one of my projects here that I already have, sort of like a demo project that I already have, so that you can see what that looks like. So now that it's in the evaluation stage, if I wanted to score my proposals, and I'm a part of the evaluation team, to essentially, to add myself to a member of the evaluation team, I just come in here, or to add other people, you just start typing their names, or you can type in an email address and it will send them an invitation. Once they're a part of that team and you've released it to them, then they get to, now when they click on proposals, they see the whole proposal and they see their response to the pricing table. And you can actually download this whole response here, print it out. You'll see the specifics of the response here. Now I can open up my scorecard, and there was a part where you could actually go in and type in and set up the scores and what the weights are, et cetera, and then just come in here and just score your results in the system. So I'll just go ahead and do that here and save that, submit my scores, close that out. And so that's what everyone would do. I can provide, we can have it require notes or not require notes. Thanks to Norfolk for making that suggestion. So now we have it where it's optional, where you can make it mandatory for them to put notes in. And now I can come over here to my aggregates, and I can see how everyone's scoring. I can sit down with each person and I can go through all their scores. I can look at all of their comments. And then when I'm ready to, I can make adjustments to that. When I'm ready to complete the evaluation, I just click complete. I can do a single or multi-award. If I wanted to make a multi-award, I could just come in here, select multiple vendors. I didn't show you that, I didn't flip this off, but you can set how vendors will be notified if you want everyone to be notified, or if you want just like a certain people to be notified about the award. You can do that as well. When you make the award, you can have it set where it will go, that you can publicly display who the selected vendor is on your site. So I can turn that on. And then, so now the award recommendation has been made. This is now our sort of like bid protest period. And then when we're done with that, we can actually now close it out just by finalizing it. We can send out a notification to everybody, letting them know like your intent to award, and just finalize that award. Okay, so that ends the process for what you would get for the free version of our solution, or for the free trial of our solution. There's a whole other contract management piece that would let you get notifications about when your certificates of insurance expire, and when your contracts expire, and when you have your renewals coming up for a renew, et cetera. And it allows you to exercise your options to renew. It allows you to actually build the contract document and route it around for approvals. And then also just like upload other associated documents and categorize them and search them and retrieve them. And there's a public portal that's available for the contract as well. We will have some webinars coming up around that. Again, this focus is just on getting you live with electronic bidding. So I'm going to come back over here real quick and talk a little bit about the offer so everyone knows kind of what's up. Sorry that we're kind of butting up against our mark here. You're welcome to stay on, and I'll be available, and are the folks available to ask questions. But let's just talk a little bit about how it goes down. So when you say yes, you'll receive an email with your portal link that I showed you earlier. You'll want to send that to your webmaster and get the link posted to your site with a message about the transition. And we'll send some sample language to include that as well. Let me do this real quick so I can like look at you while I'm doing this. There we go. Come on. All right. There we go. Hey, everybody. All right. Okay, so we've covered everything out there. You'll receive another email to activate your account, and it looks very similar to the vendor setup activation. It's very similar to that. And then finally, we'll reach out to you and we'll walk you through your first bid posting. So we're going to hold your hand through it. You know, there's we think you're going to get it. Our customers, when we train them, they usually like get to the end of the process before we can actually complete the training, which I kind of get a giggle out of. But it's true. You know, it's very simple to use. So that's all. That's it. That's how it goes down. You know, what is the ProcureNow COVID-19 support offer? Excuse me. It's the ProcureNow sourcing module, free, no obligation, to continue to use through December 31st, 2020. There's no license limitations, no user account limitations. You get the sourcing and evaluation part all included. The way that this will work, you just need to email me at thao@procurenow.com. In the email, simply state that you wish to move forward. When you send me that email, we will have your site ready for you within 24 hours of receiving that email. I'm not going to go through all this. This is something that I want you to have. It's essentially everything that's included, and then you know, so you know, all of the vendor portal, the vendors can access solicitations, ProcureNow supporting you. That this is sort of like what's included. And then, so what's the catch? There's not really much of a catch, but I do want to talk about that. We do ask for a few things. One, that you link your ProcureNow portal to your agency website within about a week. Do the best you can. We'll work with you on that. But you know, we're essentially volunteering our time for this, so we really want you to be committed to moving forward with it. So that's so we just ask that you you know, be committed with us, you know, so that we're not wasting our time when we, you know, we can be like working with folks who really want this and need this. So number two, that you don't already have a license with another e-bidding mechanism. That wouldn't be fair. So you know, if you have another e-bidding system, this is not for you. We need to spend our volunteer effort on those who actually need it. So give us the word that you'll move, that give us your word that you'll move to paperless bidding in the April time period. Again, this all just has to do with like our commitment to each other and like honoring the time that we're spending getting people who need it up and running. So by December 31st, you would either remove the link from your site or let us know that we may invoice you, and that invoice would be for $250 a month for 2021. So that's $3,000 annually. I will guarantee you will not find anything like this at this price anywhere. We do not offer this at this price to anyone. But we are offering it to you because we don't want you to feel like that we're sort of like, you know, forcing you into something that's going to be, you know, something that you haven't planned for. That's $3,000 annually. You know, you don't have to make that commitment now. You can say to us on December 31st, like, we're not going to, you know, we're not going to move forward with this, and that's okay. Finally, I'll just say, if you simply can't afford it and you've tried, we know that. Speak to us directly. We'll work something out. That's just not the kind of people that we are. So you know, we want to help people who really need the help. And we'll work together to make sure that you're successful. And if you want to keep it, that's great. You know, we need to run our business, so we ask that you help us when that time comes. So there was a question about what happens when you no longer want to be able to use the trial. There will be, we can show you how you'll be able to access all the documentation for your bids and your responses. Everything about every project is on one page. So it's really easy for you to come in on this project. Let me just, you know, again, log in for you real quick so you can see that. When you click on the project, you see you've got this page. It's like, here's all the stuff that we built. Here's everything that was sourced. here's all the evaluations that went along with it. So everything's going to be right here. All you have to do is just extract those pieces of it. And it actually will, you see how I can export this, what I've built? It'll actually export everything up into a full package with all the attachments in a single zip file for you. So hopefully that answers your questions about, like, if you're not going to be able to move forward this, we give you a place where you can actually go in and you can download the package into a zip file, and take it away with you if you wish. So, and again, I just want to be clear that, like, it's not like we're going to turn your system off on December 31st. We're just, again, like, we're not that kind of people. We will ask you to remove the link from your website. That's it. We will work with you to make sure that you have all of your projects available to you. Okay. We now have some time for some additional question and answer. I'm going to do my best to answer all the questions here. All right. Okay, so yeah, there's one question. Rather than it being easy to use, is it user friendly? I think hopefully by now you've been able to glean that user friendliness, and we like to say modern and intuitive. Modern and intuitive is you could pick up the phone and call any customer. I guarantee you that they'll say that this is the easiest, friendliest system to use of all the systems that are available to them today. I hope you're able to get a sense of that by looking at things like our customers' portals, etc., and just how easy it is for folks to be able to read and respond to the different bids. By it's 1, 2, 3. Read this 1, 2, 3, 4. Respond to this 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really get any easier than that, and you can customize these questions both internally in the setup and also for your vendors as well. We pride ourselves in the fact that we make this really easy to use. Let's see here. My concern is getting vendors notified of a change to registered to be notified of our bids. How do you do that when we are currently using a company that has our vendor listing? Okay, great. So that's a good question. So there's some folks that are out there that have a system that does bid notifications, but it doesn't do electronic bidding. And so the way that you can accommodate that, and actually Conor might actually be one to sort of confirm this, but I'm going to kind of speak about it, and then if he's still on, I'll let him address that. So they use a system for bid notification, and so what we suggest that you do, each project that you have, here, I'll go back here and show you. Each project that you have has a link, share project. You can take that link and you can paste it into your existing bid notification system, and that's what you're going to want to do, because if you do it that way, then you're not just like saying goodbye to everybody that was in that vendor system. You're just leading them to let them know that, like, here is where the bid is now. So don't like upload the documentation there. Just use it as a bid notification system that links them back here. Now, of course, they're going to have to sign up one time with giving their name, email address, and company name, but that's it. But that's how you're going to want to handle that. Conor, is there anything if you're there, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, we found it to be really easy when it's just a link, as you mentioned, just because we've also leveraged other resources out there for kind of getting our solicitations out and notified, especially for some of our more kind of progressive or like more innovative pushing solicitations. It's been really helpful just because we've used other resources, and that's been nice, just kind of how it plays nicely, I guess, in a way with other marketing techniques out there, rather than So that's what we found really useful, especially like we've used a thing called BidSpark and Marketplace City and in these other resources out there. And that seems like it's kind of where it's moving, where it's, you want to be able to, post on LinkedIn, like kind of do different things out there with your solicitations. But
Yep, that's a good point. So the whole reason why we have this single link here is so that you can do all those things. You can use your existing bid notification system. You can post it to your city's Facebook page. Like that, local vendors are looking at your cities and your agency's Facebook pages, and the Twitter accounts, etc. And so we make that really easy just by just taking that link and copying and pasting it in, and then drawing them into your experience here. You want to send them this page because we have the way for you to track that, who's seeing the system and how many people are seeing the projects that you have. So thank you for that question. Someone asked another question. I am so sorry, I accidentally marked it as answered without even answering it. So if that was you, I apologize. Please just ask that question again. So do you mostly service city and local governments, or do you have school districts? So the Modesto City School System is our customer, and we do, So I would say our customer base: airports, cities, counties, councils of governments, mentioned school districts, transportation authorities. Santa Clara Valley VTA just signed up with us. So it's really meant for anyone who has these transparency issues, not issues, but objectives and challenges. We can accommodate those. Thank you for that question. Is there a charge for vendors? No. Simple. How are bid bonds received? I think we talked about that. We can simply add a question with an upload, and then that way that you can receive them as a separate question. There's a question here about need here to know like how you're locking your solicitations until the due date and time. So I believe we've addressed that. Thank you for asking that question. So let's see here. So the question is, are agencies using like a Word document on their platform for public advertisement, redirecting vendors to ProcureNow? So that's going to be up to you. I would say I've seen it done so many different ways around public advertisement. We have a way to do the public notices for each of the projects in our software, but you definitely want to put something on your site that lets folks know that this is what you're doing. So if I'm going to go over here to Leon County, who just also in the same situation, they just went live. Actually, I think that maybe someone from Leon County is there on the line here. If you are, say hey in the chat window. We have the ability to now, if I go to doing business with Leon County, there's some explicit information about, hey, yeah, Jerry's on. Thank you so much, Jerry, for saying that they're transitioning from paper-based to electronic bidding. Click here. So for things that were prior to today, go here. For things that are going to be in the future, go to ProcureNow. And so we'll send you some sample pages like this of our other customers to help you get a better understanding of how you can notice folks that you're making this transition. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see here. I'm just going to go through the list of other questions that might come up here. We've already talked about cost to the vendor. Thank you for that. What happens to the files? I think we've talked about that as well. Exporting documentation to save into our accounting system. So I will say that we do have APIs that also will allow those integrations to occur. Application to application. That is not a part of what you would be getting for the free version, but we just know that we do have that available if you want to do that in sort of a full version. So one of the things I didn't get to show you, but that we do have kind of like a two-step sealed bid opening process. So if I can actually show that to you. Let me come back over here. So just real quick, so one of the things in the questions that is important to note. Let me go here and say that I'm going to do it this way. If I go over to my questionnaire, you'll see that this upload for cost proposal has a little dollar sign next to it. You can actually denote things that you want to hold back. In this case, the cost proposal. When you unseal the bid, you would only unseal it to the evaluators without the cost proposal and the pricing table. And then there's a second step after they do, let's say, their initial evaluation, where you can unseal the cost-related pricing information to them as well. And so just understand that we have that capability to do that. Let's see here. Let me go back here. So we talked about lockbox. How long is the implementation process now versus normally? To be honest with you, it's pretty much the same. Like in each of our experiences. So from our experience, it takes us about 15 minutes to get your site live and to send you that email and get you access. From there, it's all about making, it's all about you getting it to your website and then going live with it. But we will get you up and running within 24 hours of when you tell us to get started, and include all the information that you need to get going. Our team has done just an excellent job of automating that process for us. Okay. So again, so thank you. Sounds almost too good to be true. One thing that I will say is, and to be honest with you, like it is like no, it's not too good to be true. It's true. Like, this is what we're offering. We're doing this because we care. We're doing this because we're passionate about what we do, and these are unprecedented times. And so I think that that's really the reason why we're doing this, and we're going to do this for a limited time. I appreciate you saying that. Take advantage of it, because this is not something that we're going to be doing for a long time, and we want to help. That's why we're doing this, and so I really appreciate you mentioning that. We do have a whole bunch of other stuff I didn't even get into, just around analytics and average procurement cycle times, and how many things are coming out from department to department. But that's